Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, where today, in this episode, I embark on further modifications to the rear suspension to my Nissan 370 GT, G37 in the USA. And what exactly will we be doing? Well, I'm going to rip out the rear hubs, press out all the old rubber bushings, and fit new SPL spherical bushings to them. I'll also be pulling out the rear upper arms, pressing out the rubber bushings, fitting SPL spherical bushings into those, and on from that I'll be fitting SPL rear traction arms. Now once that's all done, that will sort of complete the component changes to my rear axle assembly. It will now run all SPL arms, all aftermarket bushings, aftermarket sway bars, etc, etc. We'll have a run through that later. So let's get on with the video. Up she goes. And there it is, folks, a driver's side rear knuckle. Not this sort of a knuckle, that sort of a knuckle. So yes, all these bushes here, that's what we've got to press out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's our 4 SPL spherical bushings for this one. But first, I think I might just spend a bit of time cleaning this up. It's just looking a bit sad and daggy, and I hate working with dirty crap, so I might give this a bit of a clean before I start pressing the bloody rubber bushings out. So bear with me, folks. I'll give this a bit of a clean and I'll be right back to you. There we go, folks. That's looking a little bit better. That's mostly done by hand. I did use a little bit of a wire wheel right at the beginning on a drill. Just something pretty light because I didn't want to mark the aluminium up too much, but most of it's just been done by a bit of hand scrubbing. You know, a couple of Scotch-Brite pads. All up, I've probably got an hour, maybe an hour and a half in that cleaning it up. So, you know, folks, you could bloody get the thing bead blasted and, you know, soda blasted or whatever, but honestly, like I say, an hour and a half max, and it's pretty bloody clean, if I do say so myself. So, I guess the next step is we've got to get this over to the press and work out what we need to kind of rig up to be able to press these guys out, because you often need to, you know, work out ways to hold them properly in the press on the right angles and the right spaces and everything to be able to get these things out to the press. So here we are at the press, folks. Apologies if the angle's not real great that you're sort of viewing on, but it's a little bit tricky trying to jig this stuff and hold it up, and the camera really is in my way here. So apologies if the view's not the best. I'll do my best with it, but it's really more important about doing this safely and not buggering anything up. I can just sort of keep increasing it with washers and things like that. But it's just a matter of seeing whether this is actually going to do it, folks. Because it's a bit of a piece of crap, but we'll see. See if we got anywhere. Oh yeah, it's working. Like I say, folks, it doesn't take much. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit wily about how you do things. If you don't really have the right bits and pieces, you can sort of always get by with stuff, you know. That's probably a little bit much. If only this bolt was a little bit longer, I'd be very, very happy. But it's the longest bolt I could find with a decent sort of a thread on it. I've got some threaded rod here, but it's just mild steel stuff, and the thread on it's just weak as piss. It's not real great. Oh, might do it. That's possibly a little bit better. Yep, that'll get it. Throw that back on. Seem to be almost there, folks. Doesn't really work. What do we got there? That one. That's a bit shit. Turn that fella over. Oh, yeah, that's better. I reckon that might do it this time. There we go. There it is, folks. That's what you can do with a bolt and a few spacers and an impact driver. Sometimes in the shed it's just about being resourceful. So there you go, folks. That was the last one. So that's all our bushes out, ready for the new bushes. So what we'll do now, we'll get all the new SPL bushes and we'll put them in the freezer overnight to shrink them down a bit to aid getting them in. So bear with me, folks. When you come back, it'll be tomorrow. These will have been in the freezer for 24 hours and we will get them pressed in on this hub. Alrighty. Welcome back, folks. 24 hours later now, it's time to press in a few bushes. While we sat up here on the bench for taking this one out that we couldn't do on the press, we might as well do that while we've got all the bits and pieces here to do it. Here we go. This one's been in the freezer, as you can see. It's sitting there. It's still quite sort of chilly. Hopefully, an awkward position. Guess just start him in and see what happens. Go to that. Go a couple of nuts on here. Probably just the one, I reckon. The reason I'm going through from this direction, folks, is this is the machine face on this end, and the hole is square to the machine face. This end here is a bit of a tapered thing, so it's a little bit, trying to get it in from that side over there is it's not really going to push it square, so I'm hoping that this is the way to sort of do it on this fella. No worries at all. Nut. Now, I need to just quickly put my little spacer on here, just because I need to go in a little bit deeper. That's us, folks. I don't know if you can see this, folks, but this is what I was trying to explain. You can see that this surface here is machined. It's square off the face of the hole for the bush, so therefore that's where we want to, you know, have the force, so it's pushing sort of square. And you can see this face here, you can see the top of the bush is actually below the surface on the back edge, and it's above the surface slightly, or flush on the front edge, and that's just because this isn't a machine face. So if you're trying to push against that, it's gonna sort of twist the bush as it goes in. But yeah, that's the reasoning behind that, folks. But that one's in, so that's good. So the rest of them we should be able to do in the press, folks. So let's head over to the press. pressed in very nicely. So that's that one full SPL fitted hub. Very happy about that. So obviously the other one is the absolute same as this. I won't bore you with doing two of them on camera, but what I will do now is I'll go and pull the upper control arm out on the rear, because we're putting SPL bushings in that as well. So this is the rear upper control arm, folks. This is the driver's side one, same side as I'm doing on everything. So what I'm about to do is press out this bushing and this bushing. These have to come out from one way. They do have a small flange on one side. It's you know, and they both sort of go the same way. Flange on the outside and on the inside on that one. So we'll see how we'll go pressing these out. Hopefully I can rig something up. Upper bushings pressed out there. Took a little bit of frigging around, but we got there in the end. And as you can see here, folks, that's my collection of old bushings there. You can see I've gotten all of the bushings out without having to destroy them in any way, shape or form. These would able to be actually just pressed straight back in, and they should be fine, other than the fact that you know, this isn't what I'm using. But as you can see, no damage to the bushes, which just sort of gives you an overall idea of the fact that, you know, everything's been done very carefully and in a reasonably precise way. So I'll just go inside and I'll pull the SPL bushings out of the freezer. These guys are sitting in the freezer inside, and we'll press them in, eh? And there's the finished upper control arm, folks. This is actually the one for the passenger side. I buggered up the footage for the one on the driver's side that I was just doing. So I've just inserted this in there, but as you can see, same deal. So it now has the full SPL bushings in it. Circlips retain them on the back side of the bushing, and they have that flange on the front, just like the factory bushings do. Yeah, very happy with that. These are a little bit harder to get in. They seem to be a little bit tighter fit than the ones in the hub, but they do go in, yeah, relatively easily. So I guess we better start putting things back together. install the SPL traction arms on my rear axle assembly there, and I thought I'd just run you guys through the way to properly align your new aftermarket component with your original factory component, so that your wheel alignment isn't buggered up too much before you get it done. So obviously you've got to match the length of the two arms here, so you'll need something to be able to line them up with. You can use a couple of bolts, but I happen to have just a piece of steel rod here in the appropriate sizes that I need to do this. So first of all, you've got to start by aligning the bottom bolt hole position here. So that's, you know, the easy way to do that. Like I say, you can use a bowl or a piece of threaded rod. Obviously a piece of smooth bar like this will give you the best alignment because it'll fit the neatest in the hole. And then you just have to do the same thing to the top. So, you know, I obviously have this aligned already, but that's all a matter of doing. So you just work your adjuster until you get these to line up. So it's a very sort of a tight fit. And once you do get it aligned, folks, you just, to get it exactly right, just wind it in and out until you feel that, you know, it's easy to turn the bar here that you've got in the top. You can also clamp off the bottom if you think you've got that right, just to stop any movement in that way, like so. It doesn't have to be anything great or anything. So that sort of takes that out of the equation, and then just turn your adjuster until you can rotate the bar or the bolt or whatever you've got in there nice and easy. If you turn it one way or the other, it's going to start to bind. So just set it up to a point where your bolt or your rod or whatever's not binding in there, you know, so you can turn it nice and easy. Lock your adjuster down, fit it on the car, and you should be good to go. So this one here is just about right, folks, so I'll lock it all down and I'll go and throw it back on the car. There we go, folks. That's our arm in position. Length matched to our original component. Another thing I didn't mention though, folks, was your adjuster position. Make sure you follow SPL's recommendations for the adjuster settings, how much stick out you're allowed to have on each piece, so that you don't have too much on the rod end or too much on the adjuster sticking out. This has been set to within their spec to give you a bit of movement in either direction. So that's really all you have to do. So you can get into trouble, as they say in the directions. If you don't get this right, just follow the instructions and it'll all be perfect. Don't forget your spacer, folks. Goes on the outside. Throw your original bolt back in. Torque them up and we're good to go. So 72.5 Newton meters for this one, folks. And 87.5 for this one. And that's pretty much that, folks. So just as a quick recap, we now have all SPL spherical bushings in the entire knuckle assembly here, including your shock/coilover mount and all your connection points for all of the other arms. I have an SPL traction arm, SPL camber arm on the bottom here, and SPL tow arm on the back. So basically the entire rear axle assembly now has none of the original rubber bushings. It's all SPL stuff, which is just absolutely fantastic. That, along with the fact that the rear cradle doesn't have any of the OE bushes either. It all has white line urethane, and the diff mount itself is white line urethane, which all adds up to a pretty tight, predictable rear end on the car, folks. So that's about it for the SPL bushings install. Obviously I still have to refit the hub and all the brakes and everything, but there's nothing super big about that. One other thing I'm going to take care of, folks, is the rear axle clicking mod, which basically just involves replacing the OE hub nut with a Kawasaki castellated nut. and some washers, and using the M77 paste on the back of the hub there. I think this will do us for now on the SPL bushings, and arm install. Was only this one arm, but it's the same process with all the others. So yeah, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. And following on from this video, like I say, will be installation of the Nismo fin diff cover on the rear wheel steer rear axle assembly, showing all the clearancing and everything that's required to be able to fit a fin cover onto this, which is apparently something that's impossible to do. But we're going to have a crack at it. So as always, folks, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Bloody pleasure to have you here. Hope you like this video. Remember to give it a thumbs up if you did. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel. And as always, folks, I'll see yous on the next one. Cheers.